Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. Basically, think of this as like a show where I just talk about canceled TV shows that I'd really like to see get another chance. Obviously, as you can tell from the title of this episode, I'm going to be talking about the recently canceled TV show Krypton. Usually, I've been doing a list with these Bring It Back so far, but obviously, I wanted to kind of do things a little differently this time and just focus on one particular show. Obviously, because this cancellation is fairly new and everything. So, if you're unfamiliar with what Krypton is, it's interesting because I want to say a prequel because it's the easiest thing to describe, because basically the storyline, it takes place like at least like 100 years before Krypton's destruction. The storyline follows Seg-El. He is the grandfather of Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, aka Superman. Basically, someone went back in time to try and make sure that Superman was never born. This dude named Adam Strange came back in time and he lands on Krypton and he's like, dude, I gotta help you basically save your grandson because your grandson grows up to be one of the greatest heroes in the universe. That's why I don't want to necessarily call it a prequel, because I will always remember like some of the earlier promotional material. Cameron Cuff, the actor who plays Seg, had been like, if I could tell people anything about the show, I'd let them know that it isn't a prequel. The show has prequel-like elements to it. Obviously, it's taking place in the past. This is, before Superman's story and stuff like that. But it is its own story. It does its own very interesting things. And because obviously this news of it getting canceled is very sad, because it's actually a really good show. Because I think a lot of people might have the mentality that, oh, it is just a prequel, so it doesn't matter. But no, it tells its own interesting story in these very interesting ways, because time travel adds this element to it, and it subtly is changing Superman canon in certain ways without really because they handle things in a very interesting way. Is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's just a really dope science fictional show. I would have loved to see what they did with a season 3. Like, if you have not seen Krypton, I highly recommend you check it out, because for one, like I've talked about this countless times before, what's so interesting about this show too is like you learn about Krypton. I never really even cared to know about Krypton until I saw the show, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's interesting things like the fact is Krypton has like a caste system to it. Like, there's a social status level. Like, they're the top ranked people who are known as like the ranked. That includes like top families like the L's, the Vexes, Zod, family Zod, which we kind of, well, House Zod rather, I should say. That's a whole interesting thing to kind of dive into, to understand more about how Zod ended up the way he did, because the way House Zod is structured to a certain extent. And those who are not part of like a family who aren't ranked are called rankless. So just like the fact is that there's a difference like that on Krypton, which I never knew, because it's never something that's ever focused on, because always the biggest part of it is Superman. And I always love that being a tagline in the show. It's not about how we died, it's about how we lived. And that's the thing, like, you might think like, oh, this is a prequel, this doesn't matter. It's like, no. These are characters you come to follow and love. You're like interested in their story. You're hoping that everything works out for them. Like, obviously you know what their future is, and that's the beauty of it. It's like, yeah, you know where things could potentially go, but the ride along the way is going to be nuts. I mean, this is going to be going a little bit into spoilers, but season 2 was nuts. It was filled with like crazy Superman villains. Okay, when you got Brainiac, you got Zod, you got Lobo, which is interesting. He doesn't really borderline as a villain. I'm sure I'm not that familiar with Lobo, so I don't know whether he's considered a villain, anti-hero. Like, I know he's a bounty hunter, but I don't know where he stands in the grand scheme of things. To be fair, Zod and Brainiac had popped up in season 1 to a certain extent, and like I said, I'm trying not to talk about it. Also, another big surprise would be our 4th big villain, and that was Doomsday. It's like, wait, what? You're packing this to the gill with like crazy Superman villains, so it's not like they're shying away from it. It's like they're embracing it and telling very interesting stories about why these particular villains are here and everything. It's so good, and I would have loved to see where they did with the way season 2 ends, like what that would have meant for season 3 in so many different regards, like where Lobo's story would have taken us, because his story ends up tying into another character's story. Like I said, I don't want to give away too much. There's even a character, Nyssa. Nyissa's on her own at the end of this season, and she finds something, and I'm like, wait, what are you setting up by introducing that? This show is like crazy with what it's doing and what it's potentially setting up. And obviously it's so interesting because like the Superman canon is still kind of screwed up in many different regards. It's not like, oh, everything got fixed or whatever. And who knows, like maybe in this canon, nothing ever gets fixed. Nothing will ever quite be the same. Maybe it is. Like, that's the whole thing. I'm curious about it. Like, you know, fate and time travel. Like, is everything 100% set in stone, or can things be changed? It seems like things can be changed. So I'm in, like, I want to see where they would go with a season 3. Because it's also interesting too, because I think I remember hearing word about this, but I know that from what I was reading in an article, basically Syfy was also thinking about making a Lobo spin-off, which getting Lobo and Krypton made me go, yeah, I'd love to see what they do with a spin-off with like this interpretation of the character, because I'm not that familiar, but I really like what I saw in Krypton, so I would have loved to see what that would have been. But like I said, sadly, you know, it's canceled. Obviously there is kind of, you know, it's that sad situation where it's like a show gets canceled because it's not like, oh, the show's terrible or it's bad. It's just that sad situation of just not enough people watch it. Maybe just not enough people are aware of it. But also maybe it's that whole mentality I brought up earlier. Like I said, the same mentality that I had. The show was a prequel. It's like, no, it's not. It's its own thing. I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, because obviously there are people online who are giving their support to be like, come on, like bring this show back. Especially the way season 2 ends. It needs a proper ending. Now, I don't know if they're going to give us that proper ending in one more season. I'd like the show to be able, at the very least, have 2 more seasons, but I'd like the show to just be able to reach a proper conclusion. I don't want it to be like a rush situation where it's like they have to like rush to fit it all into one final 3rd season. I'd love them to kind of get the time to kind of space things out. For me, I'm like, I'm got my fingers crossed, hoping like some like, you know, streaming service will pick it up. If anything, you'd assume DC Universe would, but I don't, you know, currently where that stands, and then eventually like the HBO Max app becoming a thing and stuff like that, I don't know if that'd be where that would stand, but I'd hope that at the very least they would, or at least someone will pick this up, because this show's too good to just, you know, let kind of fade away like that. In the comments down below, let me know your thoughts about this. Are you a fan of Krypton? Had you never seen the show before? Once again, if you've never seen the show before, I highly recommend you at least check it out, because I think it might surprise you with everything that ends up going down. Like I said, it has many different twists to the typical Superman canon I feel like most people might be familiar with. But, you know, going back to it, if you did, you know, if you are a fan of the show, if you did watch the show, what would you want to see in a season 3 if the show got another chance? Let me know in the comments down below. Really, that's all I want to talk about today. Next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good